politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back. Oh my God!
Back again.
I feel like we should hold hands.
Oh, I miss you.
I missed you. God, it's been a week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Raised Red Living Blue. I'm Sloane Rhoden, joined by
Jason Will.
It feels so good, man. That was like riding a bike.
Yeah.
It was just like jumping right back in.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be back in the basement with you and see your face.
Me
in
too.
Real life.
I don't know. I'm feeling like grateful for this project that we're doing this. I mean, don't you feel like every fear, every anxiety we had is coming to fruition?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And to be providing some resistance. I mean, shout out to 1819 News. I mean, who knew they were following our podcast? I mean, I'm sure somebody sent it to them, but
I think they probably were like Googling for Liz, and because we put our episodes on YouTube, then that SEO picked it up.
But hey, thank you so much for that exposure. That's awesome. Give us a shout if you're looking for a sponsorship. But
there's no telling what they would say about us.
Yeah, we're actually the antithesis of that. But I mean, that's a big part of kind of what I wanted to talk about today. You and I had discussed after the Charlie Kirk situation, doing a podcast in response to that.
Yeah.
I haven't really been thrilled with the response from right or left, really, to be honest with you. I mean, I've been extremely disappointed in the Republican leadership response. I've been proud of the Democratic leadership response, but there's a lot of people, lefties, putting out some really horrible content celebrating this. And
see, I'm not seeing any of that.
Yeah, it's
all I've seen is, and kind of like what if I were to make a personal statement, if I was somebody, hey, I did not agree with the stances that Charlie took. I didn't agree with him, politically. I do not wish ill. I did not wish ill on him or his family. I am not celebrating the fact that he was assassinated. Yeah, I think that's just really all it is. I've not seen anybody celebrating. The one of the main emotions I've seen is like, don't take our kind of like lack of response or our lack of empathy as celebrating this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard, I think, for people on the other side of the aisle to relate, I think, to our silence, because they don't understand that we're frustrated that they were so silent, or that they celebrated Pelosi's husband getting a hammer to the head. There's been very little, if any, accountability.
They celebrated George Floyd.
Yeah. Yeah. Where was that? Where was that empathy? I'm really trying to I don't know. I was hopeful that this would be a unity opportunity, especially, is it Governor Cox in Arizona? Yeah, Spencer Cox, who, he referenced the political violence that's happening on both sides. I think it's a mistake for liberals to say statistically, because of course Vance is saying statistically it's more left than right, but really the real facts is it's more right than left. And I've got pretty prepared today with some show notes on, because I've talked in a prior episode, really our early on episodes, that I really thought that this demonization of the Democratic Party and liberals began, around the time I was born, and it's really started in the civil rights movement is when it really started.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and this has just been a coordinated effort throughout these many decades that's kind of culminating with the MAGA movement right now. Very dangerous. But when I saw, I just knew when I saw Spencer Cox give his statement, very emotional, talking about all leaders, you know, Diane and I have been talking this week about like the damage that saying, you know, they or them or those people or y'all, just the deflection and just going back to that y'all means all. I mean, like, just let's get some inclusivity here. But I was like, well, maybe the way that Spencer Cox is coming out and approaching this, maybe this will put some pressure all the way up to the top for them to follow suit. And I was very disappointed in Trump's response, Vance's response, and
I didn't like
in Tuberville's response. To be honest with you.
I don't know if it was which responses. I have seen a quote from Cox, and I mean, he immediately, you know, used those right talking points of, I think he used the term like leftist ideology.
Well, that was
like,
yeah, and that was afterwards. Okay, so what many are speculating happened is because his initial, I'm talking his press conference, like literally hours after this happened, was very unifying. And, you know, because he mentioned the folks in Minnesota that were murdered. You know, he mentioned Governor Shapiro's house almost being burnt to the ground, and, you know, called on all leaders, like, you know, something good needs to come out of this man's passing, this horrible, horrific event. There's an opportunity for good here, but immediately from the top, it was seized upon as a rallying cry for war.
yeah. Yeah.
And so what I think is that the Trump administration officials got on the phone and said, hey, Spencer, get your ass in line. And that's when, you know, because there's a lot of speculation about these text messages being fake. And, you know, they're really trying to paint this guy as a member of the left to justify the narrative to rally their base. Because, I mean, Tuberville put out a statement saying, you know, will he be calling for unity in Alabama? He's like, no. The leftist ideology, leftist people have no place in Alabama. He wants to root this out. It's like a cancer they want to root out. And man, is that scary as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, if the National Guard deployments weren't scary enough.
Right. And people, you know, there's been so much that has happened since we've met in person.
Yeah.
You know, and then even, you know, the firings, the Jimmy Kimmel situation, there's just so much to unpack. But I wanted to kind of break it down for our audience in a couple different segments. Okay. So I feel like that in order for our democracy to be saved, in order for this to not start perpetuating more and more violence, that it's got to be a top-down situation. So from the top leaders down, this is not a grassroots situation. Grassroots ain't working. If you go on TikTok and you fall down a rabbit hole on the right or the left, it's not pretty in most cases, because the left is saying, you know, the right's calling for war. You know, I love messing with some of these guys, because like I saw this one guy and he's like all trying to be big bag and tough, and he's standing by his like Chevy or Ford F-150 4x4 truck, and he's just a little bit taller than the hood of the vehicle, and he's like, he's gonna, you know, be ready. We're mobilizing. We're coming for you. You know, this is war. And I'm like typing in, well, I hope you're gonna be standing on a stack of Bibles, short ass. You know, but these people are like, you know, the right is like, oh, you have stirred the hornet's nest. The left is like, where were you when George Floyd? You know, where were you when the Minnesota folks? The response from
Melissa Hortman, Gretchen Whitmer, who I would say all of those are elected officials.
Right.
And this was a private citizen.
Yeah. Who was, I want to get to that in a second, but we were riding last weekend. We drove from Hoover to Wisconsin for Diana's mom's wedding. And so that's like a 11.5-hour drive all the way there. I'm seeing flag after flag after flag at half mast. And it just, you know, I thought, wow, what an honor for this young man. But why aren't we doing this for everybody else? And, you heard Trump. I don't know if you heard Trump's response. A reporter asked him. He's like, why didn't we lower the flag for Melissa Hartman?
He's like, I don't know who that was.
Well, he's like, I don't really know. Yeah, he's like, I don't really know who that was. But if we lowered the flag every time something happened, we'd be lowering the flags a lot. And so we can't lower them for everybody.
But also, like, that's a problem. Like, he's admitting there's a problem.
Oh my gosh, he's so transparent if you just listen and read his tweets and listen to him on.
There's also been another, I think later, after the school shooting in Minnesota, they asked, are you going to call the governor? And he then just railed on one of his tangents about how awful Tim Walz is.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, and there was a school shooting the same day. Charlie Kirk, apparently there was a black man lynched somewhere. Two
men were lynched in Mississippi. And one, both arms and legs were broken, but the autopsy ruled it was suicide.
Right. Okay.
So it's a cover-up.
Yeah, and at the same time all this is going on, the House is voting against measures to bring more transparency to the Epstein investigation. So
you got all these Republican women going on these talk shows and saying like what they're going to do for Epstein survivors, and Nancy Mace and her...
It was so... makes me want to, vomit in my mouth.
Yeah, she's like becomes emotionally unhinged in these scenarios. She walks out of the hearing crying, yet she still didn't vote for it. So it's such a, we're going to do one thing behind closed doors, but we're going to act another way in front of reporters and the press.
Yeah,
that's
gross.
Disgusting.
It's so disgusting. I had one of her people reach out to me because I troll her butt because I just think she is so vile. And the girl started following me on TikTok, then reached out and said, "Hey, Nancy really wants to likes to interact with people who are her constituents." I was like, "What part of Nancy Mace's gross do you not understand?" And she replied back, "Well, still, I think this would be good. Might open your mind to some things and might open her mind to some things." I was no. Block.
No, we have seen how Nancy responds to reporters asking straightforward questions, and she turns around and is like, "You're a leftist, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And it's like...
Well, Don Lemon hammered her. And just, live.
Yeah.
She was like, "We're talking about Charlie Kirk right now." But, he just put her in her place.
Yep. God bless Don Lemon for going unhinged in the best way since his departing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He doesn't have the tethers of...
No.
Of CNN
of corporate,
or a corporate media outlet.
Well, that's, black woman from MSNBC.
Joy Reid.
Yeah, she's... I heard her on a podcast the other day, and she was talking about how she just really feels free. And
yeah.
If you think, Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, these guys just aren't going to crawl in a hole. They're more going to be Jimmy Kimmel. I can't wait to see what he does next.
So when I heard about Joy Reid being let go, I was hoping, and it's looking like this is the path she's taking. I was hoping that she was going to take the same route as Jemele Hill, who Jemele Hill spoke at. She was been a reporter for ESPN for 20-something years. Spoke out against Donald Trump, called him a racist, maybe a white supremacist. Fact check me on that. And ESPN let her go. And she has created her own media network out of it. And her podcast, Spolitics, is one of my favorites because it's the intersection of where sports and politics meet.
Oh, I think you mentioned that before. I still haven't checked it out. I gotta check it out.
It's so good. And so, she's a prime example of, not having the yoke of a major media network, tamping her voice down. And I hope Joy Reid is experiencing that freedom. It looks like Don Lemon is experiencing that freedom. I hope anybody, not that I agree that these people should be fired from these networks, but I hope for them and for us as a collective there is another side that they can continue to do good. And there's proof in the pudding that the good that these people are doing is actually more impactful.
Yeah.
So there's my light. I'm trying to be positive about some things. Lately, it makes me a happier person.
Yeah.
So that's the spin I'm going to take today.
Yeah, me too. I'm starting to soften my tone a little bit, but, instead of calling somebody a MAGA tard, I may say, man, you really make it difficult for me or for us not to think or call you dumb. So I'm softening my...
That is such a bless your heart.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God. I just posted something about Charlie Kirk and how a lot of these people on the right, I think, are tarnishing his legacy, because his legacy was all about free speech. And when you celebrate, like canceling Jimmy Kimmel and the right taking up arms on the cancel culture they once just despised and loathed the left for.
Yep.
I don't think Charlie would support that. And I had one guy on TikTok comment, well, Charlie didn't condone lying. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, that's lying is speech. Mm-hmm. You have to speak to lie. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just people are very sadly either uninformed, misinformed, intellectually challenged, or dumb as a box of rocks. I don't know. But what started it for me here, okay, so I'm watching CNN the afternoon of Charlie's assassination, and I'm watching Jake Tapper, who's one of my favorite people on cable news, and he was interviewing Joe Walsh, who I believe is a former congressman. And Joe was talking about how close of a relationship he had with Charlie Kirk. Here's a little bit of a direct quote. He said, he still felt like a son to me, even though he had drifted so far right, and politically they just became so on polar sides of the spectrum there that they just kind of lost touch. But he always saw him as a friend and even referred to him, like a son. But he did go on to say that Charlie was a very divisive guy. He said provocative things. He got in people's faces. He, just didn't back down from like firing people up. Yep. Like rage baiting people, so
which is
but
so much of what the media is doing right now.
But Joe was like, he still didn't deserve to die. This is still horrific. I feel like I've lost a son. Well,
this is a great example of, and I feel like people who have like done some work and like been to therapy and worked on like levels of emotional intelligence, we those of us in this camp can understand this. Two things can be true at once.
Yeah.
You can disagree with somebody and what they believe and what they're spewing, and also like kind of how they're doing it. Doesn't mean you wish ill upon them or you wish them, to die, or you celebrate if something happens to them. And like that's a real live example of somebody articulating those feelings.
Yeah. And my Facebook news feed is full of people posting memes about, things that Charlie Kirk said about Jesus and God and all these things. But I mean, Charlie Kirk said some horrible, terrible things, had some horrible positions, in my opinion. Not a lot of good things about black people. I mean, it was just, he's
gay people.
Very harsh. I mean, he made a statement.
Black women.
Made a statement once that he, this is maybe a little out of context, but thought that gay people should be stoned in a public setting, that we should bring back public executions, things like that. But back to this Joe Walsh situation, because this is where kind of my evolution with the disappointment in the administration and how this is just a missed opportunity for our country. So later on, maybe it was Aaron Burnett, was interviewing Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings started raging against Joe Walsh and just said, hey, can't you just say, I feel like I've lost a son and this is tragic? Why did you have to bring in the fact that you thought he was, radical or indoctrinated by Trump or all that stuff? Like, why'd you have to even bring that up? Okay. And I thought, well, maybe you got a point there, Scott, for just 1 second until Trump makes his public address. And in his public televised address, is talking about the radical left and mentions nothing about unity. And then, so I asked AI to scour the internet for any Republican leaders other than Governor Cox that had anything remotely unifying to say about this. And it was Mike Pence. Mike Pence is like the only person.
I've seen it. It's wild.
So it's like, I mean, when did you ever think you'd be like a fan of Mike Pence? I mean, Mike Pence is like, tariffs or taxes. I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think we should be doing that. And then he's the only person?
Yeah.
The only Republican?
Yeah, Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram at raisedred_livingblue_pod and TikTok at raisedred_livingblue. Okay, back to the episode.
Things are so obvious. I mean, it's obvious there's a cover up on Epstein. I mean, how do these people make sense of her being moved to a white collar playground prison after being convicted and what she did to all these women? Sex trafficker, sexual molester. To me, that's where the frustration comes from on the left, is because it seems so obvious. Trump's policies are destroying our healthcare, our environment, our economy. He's like the Trump effect on this lower interest rates. I'm excited about lower interest rates, but I'm not excited about how we got here.
Yep.
We got here because the economy is declining. This is signs of a recession. So very disappointed.
Still not low enough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I'm very disappointed in in the majority. The Republicans are in the majority. J.D. Vance, there is no unity with people who celebrate Kirk's assassination. No unity, no unity, no unity. Radical, radical, radical. And it's really sad.
Well, and my thing is, like, we can't be the party of snowflakes and too many feelings and political correctness and worrying about, everybody getting a fair shot, but then also we're too violent for you. Like, so really they're just making the left be the enemy at every turn. It doesn't make sense.
Right. But I'm not here to point fingers and go, our side's better than your side. I just want to bring awareness and go, look, if you value democracy, I mean, I don't even see people living by their faith. Like,
right. Well, I think that's the Christian nationalism.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't want you to be, I'm not going to, if you're pro-abortion or pro-gay rights, you're not my neighbor. Or you're not, or God doesn't even love you.
Yeah.
You are a forsaken person.
Okay, on that, can I make a note real
Heck
quick?
yeah.
So in that awful Hoover News and Information group, somebody posted, like, when it comes to diversity, why does it always have to be the gays? Like, we moved to Hoover for diversity, like ethnic diversity, but not for gay diversity. And it's like, sorry, ma'am. Like, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like,
yeah, it's just, until that person, I mean, it's all fun and games until somebody comes out in your family. I mean, that's the deal with Republicans. It's like, until it affects them, they could give a F less. They really can. So while all this is going on, this is like the perfect distraction, because everybody is talking about Charlie Kirk and this civil war and not talking about the Epstein files. But the Democrats pushed to force release of Epstein-related files. Senate Republicans blocked it. This was a measure to add transparency to the ongoing investigation, and the GOP members blocking Democratic subpoenas for bank and financial records. I thought it's incredibly damning. And then you have Kash Patel in his recent hearing talking about this is some guy who championed this. And now he's saying there's no credible evidence that anyone beyond Epstein raped or molested these young women. So he didn't set up anything for anybody. And the other thing I just like to make clear is that, there is an active cover up here. If you are a Republican that doesn't see that, in a way, you're inadvertently a pedophile protector. But I had a Republican reach out to me on a chat and say, well, why didn't the Democrats do anything before? And I said, well, shit, probably because Clinton was on the list. But two wrongs don't make a right here. I mean, no matter who's on that list, because that's what they always say too. Well, Clinton's on the list. Clinton's on the list. And fucking what?
Yeah, and we're like, okay.
Nail his ass to the wall.
I know. The funniest memes I see is it's like, oh darn, I got to go in my closet and pull out my Clinton flag and my Clinton hat and my Clinton sweatsuit and my Clinton blanket. Like, darn, I can't wear it anymore.
Yeah. But, I mean, he didn't write the birthday card. He did write the birthday card. I mean, that's not his signature. Yeah. It's so sad. I can't understand what that world is like, and I've been trying to make sense of it. I had, a politician who's running for office in Huntsville on the pod last week, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but especially like gay MAGAs blow my mind. So do black MAGAs and hardcore Latina MAGAs, women MAGAs. But it's like a combination, I guess, of the environment you're in, how you were nurtured, what you were exposed to, your lack of exposure. But also there's an indoctrination going on here by all this propaganda. I mean, the stuff that people post, it's like, people were believing that Hillary Clinton was running a sex trafficking ring in the basement of a pizza shop. But when I see stuff get debunked, I go, maybe there's a pattern. And they're you start to recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
And go, well, maybe these people are full of shit.
Yeah.
When Alex Jones and all these people get exposed, that should tell you something. It should tell you something. But, when 400 people, top-ranking Republicans, military, all the way from elected officials to staffers to military leaders to, people that are in, important corporate positions in, the civilian world, when they are not endorsing the candidate for the Republican candidate for president, that sends a message to me that there's something off. Like, this guy should be disqualified from the job. They see it as that's just the establishment, So we need to break through some of this. But
let's take a quick break.
Yeah, let's do that. And on the other side, we will continue a little bit with the Republican leadership response to include J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller.
Okay.
Their podcast, which I thought was disturbing.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots. Don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
Yeah, I've seen some interviews with young, very young Turning Point USA kids, and it's a little frightening just given what they're preaching, and I just don't know. They're so desperate, it seems like, to turn back the clock on civil rights, women's rights. I asked it. This is this direct dialogue from a person I interacted with on TikTok. It was a female MAGA. And, she was railing against my content. And I said, y'all, women for Trump baffled me. I said, are you still going to support them when they take away your right to vote? And she said
take away your ability to get a credit card, take away your ability to get a mortgage, take away your protection, your employment protection if you're pregnant.
Her immediate response was, well, how would that ever happen? So I spent 3 seconds on Google and pulled up a page from Project 2025 and posted the link and said, here you go.
Yep.
It's like they're not paying attention. So in addition to our leadership at the very, very top, all the way down, calling for unity and peace, overall peace, and really just adhering to, if they're not Christian values, just, humanitarian values. People need to be better informed. But if people don't know who Stephen Miller is. He is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff who has taken this opportunity to pledge that he is going to utilize every resource available to him at the Justice Department and the Homeland Security and throughout the government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these radical left networks. He framed this as a response to what he alleged as left-wing terrorist networks. And I want to make a case towards the end of this podcast, maybe in a closing segment, about how those groups don't exist.
Antifa isn't real.
It's not real.
I have been a Democrat since 2012. I don't know. It's like that. Okay, did you ever watch that Cat Williams special, The Pimp Chronicles? Oh, it's so good. But there's a segment and he's talking about insurgents. And he's like, I don't know any motherfucking insurgents. And I'm like, I don't know any motherfucking Antifa.
Yeah.
Like, it's not real. But also, it was like yesterday, maybe the day before, that I found out Antifa actually stands for anti-fascist. And it's like, how is that the enemy?
Yeah, exactly.
But also...
Well, just like what woke stands for.
Yes. But also like...
It's like awake.
Yeah. And the first time I ever heard the term Antifa was the Jan 6 insurrection.
Yeah, it was all Antifa organized.
They have like made up.
They were pretending to be MAGA supporters. That's what a lot of people believe, that these people were staging this. So so growing up in a red household where my stepdad, career Republican politician, whether we're talking about that or we're talking about, it's really kind of a combination of Republican values, beliefs, traditions mixed in with, the Bible and Christianity. I know how easy it is to get sucked into that world. I mean, I've campaigned for them, went to campaign events, went to speaking events. Mm-hmm. You're surrounded by what seem to be very accomplished, very smart people. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, if they believe that, and they're so smart and so accomplished and so successful in business or in life in general, there's got to be something to it. And, I've mentioned on this podcast before, I had a little baby, anti-abortion baby feed on my tie, and I would wear that at those events. And when I went to Washington, D.C. and lived in a house with a bunch of Democratic staffer roommates, I mean, we almost came to blows at one point over abortion. But then the more I spent around those people, the more I was like, because I had been told that these people were evil. Mm-hmm. I saw them as like baby killers, and I wanted to get some retribution in. But the more I was around them, I was like, man, these are really good people. Mm-hmm. And, tried to understand. So I think when we are talking about, you and I have talked about this exposure factor so often. Right.
When you have a lack of diversity at any level, any socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
It's groupthink. It's an echo chamber. Just exposure is so key and so critical. And I don't know why people are so afraid of it. Unless they are afraid of the unknown. Or it's kind of like that like church idea, or kind of like biblical idea of like exposing yourself to evil.
Yeah, I might want to give somebody a blowjob. So that's what they think. You think you're talking about this politician's wife believing Jan 6 was Antifa. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're interviewing people live at Trump rallies going, yeah, like I don't want to suck somebody's dong. Then
don't.
So
guess what? Those guys probably don't want you to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But joke's on you, they're probably saying that, but then why does Grindr crash at the RNC?
Right. Well, they think they're going to be indoctrinated into this gay lifestyle. And, that it has nothing to do with science. It's all about being provocative and just being oversexed and or sexually perverted and all these things.
If they're that scared of it, they might want it. Me think they doth protest too much.
Well, there's some scuttlebutt out there about Tucker Carlson maybe wanting to experiment, but we'll see. I do want to give some shout outs to Tucker Carlson and his pushback on what the right is doing, their war on free speech, taking up arms of the cancel culture. He has come out against that. Like, Tucker's had some really sketchy interviews. Did one lately where he seemed to be accusing the Sam Altman of murdering somebody within his organization. So Tucker's still got a lot of work to do. But I also don't agree with Megyn Kelly, but she put out a piece of content, or on her, you can find this content pretty easily on one of the episodes of her podcast, where she said Pam Bondi did the dumbest thing an attorney general can do by saying she was going to go after people for hate speech. I just, so unity, I think, all right, so top down in terms of rhetoric and actions speak louder than words and all these things. Trump didn't go to any of these Democratic lawmakers' funerals. It took him weeks to even acknowledge Governor Shapiro's incident. I don't even know if they ever really had a conversation about it. So that needs to happen. Your access to information with AI, with Google, you need to take some responsibility to become better informed, but also media, right, left, center, podcast, television, radio, whatever, social media, they need to start calling balls and strikes. They need to start calling it like it is.
They do.
So to see Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson do that, I just want to give credit where credit is due and say that I like to see that.
Yep. Yeah. We can say, I agree with this person and I appreciate this stance. We can also say, I don't agree with these other stances they took. Now, is Tucker like backpedaling, and was he part of this machine to get us where we are now? Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of saying, I hear people on my feed that say it's too little, too late, Tucker. Especially when he, hammered. What's that vile guy from Texas? The senator from Texas.
Ted Cruz?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
God, just such a So that was a viral moment. A lot of people say, oh, Tucker's just looking for viral moments. I say, listen, we've got to isolate these incidents or episodes or talking points and give credit where credit's due. I just really feel like there is a path forward, and just saying, to hell with Tucker Carlson because he was a big part of creating this is the wrong thing to do. Mike Pence, you could make the same argument with him, but for him to be the only person coming out and saying, his exact quote was, let's avoid putting America on trial. And that's in stark contrast to words like destroy that Stephen Miller is using, and radical left lunatics as Trump is using, just start encouraging people to call those balls and strikes. I just think that's really, really important. So I'm trying to make an effort to put out content that says, because there was a guy that raged. I was just eating this content up. He was talking about how on the right is responsible for 400 plus deaths. He first started out by saying Antifa is made up. There is no Antifa. That the right is the domestic terrorists, the alt-right, the far right. They're responsible for all this stuff. We can go back to the Oklahoma City bombing, the bombing in Atlanta. Stuff has been going on a long time. These people all had right-wing affiliations. So I think a balance of that, kind of showing people that they really do need to wake up, but then also showing them that people that they respect are speaking up and speaking out and really starting to sound the alarm and probably getting pretty damn concerned. Because you hear people talk about a lot of times, if they're a Democratic politician on, some cable news network or The View or something, I wish I had a nickel for every time I've heard this. They say, well, when I talk to my Republican colleagues behind the scenes, they're worried. They're scared about what Trump's doing.
Right.
They don't like going back home and being heckled out of their town hall, so they got to leave out a back door. But yet they say nothing.
It seems like they are scared of retaliation by Trump, scared that they are going to be primaried, which kind of goes into the idea of We are headed for an oligarchy, and that is not beneficial for anybody except these tech bro billionaires. And you can't have 3, 4, 5 people that have more wealth than the rest of the country combined that can then decide and pull the levers and have kind of like depict the marionette strings behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, that is where that is when you get to this dark side of capitalism.
Well, and this falls in line perfectly with what I heard Jake Tapper say the other day. He was like, if you want to get to the root cause of a lot of this stuff, you follow the money. I tell you what's been getting people really riled up in my feeds is when I post content about farmers needing a bailout because nobody's working the fields and all the prices are going up on the seeds and, you know, all the things.
And China is not buying any soybeans from U.S. farmers. They're now going to Brazil, and I don't remember the other one. They are about to start harvesting soybeans that will sit there. And so it's like, what's going to happen to these farmers? And so I think of that idea, follow the money. And I'm like, who benefits if these farmers file bankruptcy or have to sell their farms? Like, is it so these big, massive corporate operations can come in and buy them up and produce everything like cheaper?
Well, I don't know.
And less safe. Like so I don't know, but I'm trying to. When I hear these things, I think of that idea. Follow the money, and I'm like, what's the end game?
One point Landon Britton made on the last podcast I did with him, who's running for district or House seat 21, that covers like North Alabama, Huntsville area. He's like, it's not left or right, it's top down.
Yes.
Or top and bottom. I mean, so if you're not in the top 10%, we don't benefit from what's happening. We don't benefit from, you know, the undervaluing of farmlands and corporations and real estate and all these other things. And then, of course, on the human rights issue, if you got enough money, you're always going to be able to get an abortion. You're always going to be able to help your child transition from male to female, and nobody's going to say shit about it. So this is a active game plan to transfer the largest portion of wealth from young to old. Then we have all these old politicians who are just supporting policies that benefit them in their old age, in their prime of life, and all of us young folks are going to be screwed, and our kids especially.
And on both sides. Both sides. Like, I don't care what your position is in Congress. Like, there was that older black woman, she's a Democrat, said that she was going to run for re-election and she's 80 or 80 something.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
That's not good for anybody.
No. All right, so let's close this out.
Okay, let's talk about this week.
What happened this week? What'd you do?
Well, I was, my sinuses hit me hard this week. So, like, one afternoon I was sitting and I was, like, on the bed, but, like, in a dark room. And I got a text to our group with Diana, who said our podcast had made 1819, which is, in Alabama, is a far-right online news publication. They were building a smear campaign against Liz Lane and used our podcast. And we used incredibly foul language for, you know...
Well, you're a gay woman.
I'm a gay woman, yes.
Who does not want to see...
marriage equality overturned. And
that's triggering.
It is very triggering. And when I think back on it, the news of Kim Davis petitioning the Supreme Court was the same week that Liz and I recorded this episode. And I just let it fly. I didn't want to be measured. I thought, you know, this little community we're building, it's going to be okay. This was the first candidate interview I had done, I didn't even fathom that somebody would go online and find our podcast and use what I said against her. We've since removed that segment from the podcast because based on our numbers, we could tell that they were coming back and trying to pull more, and just thought, hey, this is a national conversation. Let's leave this on the cutting room floor because it doesn't have to do with her municipal race.
Yeah, you mean you thought you had single-handedly tanked her campaign?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's not a good place to be in.
Right.
Mentally.
So I am, thankful for how Liz reacted. I mean, she called me and asked how I was doing. I thought I had single-handedly tanked her campaign.
Which could have silenced you. I mean, you may have never recorded another political podcast in your life.
And on the heels of this past week where many people are being silenced. Should I have used the C word? No. Steph goes, let's tame down the C word for now. And when I was at lunch with Diana yesterday, she was like, don't say it into a microphone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. I just wanted to I guess I'm not the one to just toss it all to the wind and say, fuck it. You know, apparently I care what people think. There was learning lessons all around, but just learning how people pick apart and choose sound bites and leave things out. Yeah, it was just very, very eye-opening. Hey, fellow Blue Dots, it's Sloane Rhoden from the Raised Red Living Blue pod. Jason and I's video went out as we were recording the final segment on Friday, and just wanted to get with you for a few minutes and recap what's been happening and give some final thoughts on that. Last week it was really hard for me. I had some really sad, kind of dark days, and I'm trying to find the good, find the learning lessons, and find my path and how I move forward. I definitely made some mistakes. And unfortunately, that mistake has been broadcasted. And so how do I learn from it? How do I pick up and continue on while my mistake is being replayed and rebroadcasted and discussed? I recognize what I said was inappropriate. It came from a place of fear and anger. I mentioned that when we recorded this episode, it was the same week that the news broke that Kim Davis had petitioned the Supreme Court to overturn marriage equality. And Jason gave me some really wonderful grace by saying you were triggered, and I was very triggered. There's a lot of times right now as a woman, and especially as a gay person, I feel backed into a corner. Like my, but my rights and the rights of my community are continuing to be attacked. Our existence is continuing to be questioned, whether that's in national news or just in comments in local Facebook groups. What is the saying, like a cornered dog bites back or something? And when I reflect on times in my life when I kind of like lash out and get very defensive, it's when I don't feel like I'm in a safe space. And I feel like there's a lot of people right now that don't feel like today's America is a safe space. That does not mean I should use that kind of language in describing somebody. And it does not excuse my making fun of somebody's appearance. That is counterproductive to this fight that I'm trying to do, that Jason is trying to do. And I feel like we as progressives and maybe even like the moderates, that we are all trying to do. A lot of reflection, a lot of soul searching. But yeah, I want to shout out Jason for continuing to be my friend and wanting to continue this project with me. I don't want this to be my end. I believe our fight and the conversations we're having is important. And I feel like having opposing views is important. And the balancing of scales is important. And having different people in a room with different thoughts and views are always the most important for society at large. I was thinking last night, like, I felt like I'd kind of turned a corner. Now, it might go back into a dark place, but last night I really felt like I turned a corner and trying to think, what's the positive I take out of this? You know, if I'm questioned professionally, what do I take out of this? And you know, I can work on the language I use. I can watch and work on and correct how I speak. But you know what can't be taught? The fight. You can't teach somebody to stand up and say the hard thing. You can't teach somebody that drive and that will to say something when you don't feel like what's happening is right. You know, there are characteristics that you can't teach. And that's the positive I'm going to take. I can change these other behaviors. But I'm not going to change speaking up and speaking out for what's right for my community and for other communities at large. Thank you to this Raised Red Living Blue community. I hope you can forgive me as well. Thank you all so much. Treat yourself like a flower. Drink lots of water and get some sunshine. Keep up the fight. We'll see you next week.
Politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back.